bit. Well, today I'm just gonna goof off a little bit and ribbit around, I guess. So let me start Sly up. Uh, Control G to get out of that. I'm hitting Alt X, then type Sly, hit Enter. It'll start Sly up. Then once it loads up, I'm gonna hit Control X1 to get rid of that window and have one big window for the moment. And then I guess I'll start off doing a let and doing a little loop. And in the past, I was talking about how loop is funky because it doesn't really look like very lispy, let's say. But today, or not today, but earlier, I was playing around a couple days ago, I guess, and I noticed that this loop, well, I'm going to put it in the let anyway, but I guess I could have taken it out of there. Uh, Notice how this particular loop that I'm doing right now actually is looking lispy. The if is inside the parentheses. So I'm guessing as long as you don't use any of the loop for X or any of the keywords in the loop, then it can actually look lispy. And I didn't realize that before. And maybe I've used this before, but I just never noticed it, I guess. Perhaps I never did. So I just want to make a simple loop right here. And notice the entire thing, the loop and then the print and the if, and everything inside here is in the parentheses like normal. Whereas in some of the other ones where I was saying like maybe loop for X and 1, 2, 3, 4, and then now if I tried to print this, let's say print X, then it's telling me that print X is found where a loop keyword was expected. And that's what I'm normally used to seeing, I guess. And in this case, it wants a do right here. And then as long as I put a do, and notice there's not parentheses around that do, then it's going to work, which is strange because not only is loop not lispy in some cases it is going to be lispy. And also these right here are, that's why I was calling them keywords, I guess, because you can put the keywords like this and it'll still work. Oh, I see some people prefer to do that way, but other people don't. So it could either be like this or like that, I guess. So I thought that was interesting that loop up here, this loop is lispy looking and the other two are not. And even in this one right here, let's say, because I had to put the do there, right? But right here, if I hit Control J, since my S expression is closed or my form is closed, I gotta hit Control J to go to another line instead of Enter, or else it'll execute it. Then, if I wanted to put an if, let's say if, well, if odd p x, then I want to do that below me, let's say. And I guess now I have to close that. And then notice right here, it's trying again because it found print x. So basically where this if is found, because that's where the error is starting, if found where loop keyword expected. So I hit Q to get out of that. And then the reason it's doing this is because it doesn't want this if to be in parentheses anymore. And then now it's going to work. So yeah, so loop's even stranger than I thought, I guess, because sometimes it will look lispy and sometimes it won't. And at the moment I'm guessing it's because I have like the 4 right here and it breaks the lispiness of the loop. Well, there's another thing called iterate, which I see some people are preferring, I guess, because iterate is lispy all the way around, and I don't really like using DuckDuckGo inside Qt browser because I guess it has shortcut keys built in for like J and K. So if I say, maybe if I was just come up here and say like Common Lisp iterate, and then you can see there's a iterate manual, and so there's actually a library that replaces loop basically and keeps it looking lispy all the time. I haven't really like don't loop iterate. I haven't really messed with this very much, so but you can see like here's the 4, and so it's always going to look lispy, I guess. And I'm guessing it's similar to the regular loop, just more lispy looking. But I don't know. I haven't messed with it. Uh, anyway, so the reason I was doing this particular loop right here is I just wanted to goof around with like go. And if we come over here and macro expand this, and first thing is if I try to macro expand where the let starts, let's say, it's not going to show me what I want. And then go like this. And then what I did wrong right here was to not escape this. So I got to quote that, I guess. And then notice when it spits this back, it's still got the loop inside here. So what I want to do is over here and put the macro expand here. And then like this. And then right here, you can notice there's a, basically this is a go-to. So although I guess in programming nowadays, they don't really like you to use go-tos, but it's fine for the compiler to do it. So right here's this right here is a gensum, I guess. And this is basically just a label. And so notice right here, there's a go, and it'll jump up to this right here. So this go is like saying a go-to. And that's kind of what I wanted to play around with a little bit today, was playing with, I guess, like a go-to. Because they say like Lisp is multi-paradigm. You can program functionally or declarative, imperative, or whatever. I want to say like go-to is imperative. So this would be an example of doing this in an imperative style, let's say. And so we'll just let C for count, let's say. So count's going to be 0. And then I'll put a tag body. And the tag body, I believe, so it's going to let me use these go-tos. So inside this tag body, you can start putting labels. And notice right here, you only need one label because there's only one decisive thing going on with this if right here. But I could put labels everywhere, which are unnecessary, but I'll just do it so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll take them out. So I'll say like tag body, and we'll just give it a count text, and then print C, and then we'll say count is, and then we'll give it another label. What's count, let's say. And then we'll print C the count. And then another label called name. And then print, let's say the name is frog. And then we'll give another label sound. And we'll say print rivet, because a frog can rivet. And then once again, none of this stuff is necessary. I'm just doing it for the heck of it. Blank line. And then terpre is just like the print a new line basically. And I'll just do this twice. And now let's give it another label called count plus. And then we'll increment C. And then I guess a label saying like, should we do it? And then say if less than C3, then if it's less than C3, then we want to actually use our go-to finally. So it's just go. So go counter text. So if it's less than 3, we're going to come up to this label right here. And then if it's not, then we'll just go to done, let's say. So we'll go to done. Close the if. And then we'll put the label done down here and just close everything out. So C is undefined. Less than C is underdefined. So that must be my if. I need a space there. Ooh, we got another error. Go counter text. Attempt to go to non-existent tag counter text. I think I called it count text maybe. I did. So we'll come up here. I'm just hitting Control P to go up. Alt F, and then Alt Shift. Greater than, just to go to the bottom, which I didn't have to do, but, and then finally it ran. So you see count 0, frog ribbit, count 1, count as 1, frog ribbit. So now, instead of being goofy, I can get rid of most of these labels, let's say. So the only labels that matter right here are the done and the count text. So if I come over here to the rest of them, and I'm just going to hit Alt D, and then Alt D, 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 Control D to get rid of one of those because it might have been too many. And then I'll just hit Alt, Shift Alt greater than, and then I'm going to hit Control Spacebar, and then Control Alt B to go to the front of that, and then hit Tab just to re-indent all my stuff. And then I'll hit Enter to run that. And then notice it still worked because the only ones that mattered were these two labels right here. So that's just, I guess, an example of using Goto in Lisp, let's say. And then we macro expanded that stuff. And so now what I kind of want to try to do is to, let's say, make an ant crawl across the screen. So I'm going to say let, and then it'll be like a little ant trail. And notice in this let, I'm putting 2 parentheses here because I'm setting this variable. And I could put more of them down here. But since I'm right here, I guess since I'm not setting trail to be anything yet, it's going to create this, and maybe it'll just start off being nil, I'm not sure, but more than likely trail will just be nil, I'm guessing. And so I don't have to put 2 parentheses around there, but I'm pretty sure I could. So tag body to be able to start a goto, let's say, because I want to make my ant crawl across the screen with a goto. And then I'm just going to use the labels because I would kind of want to look like it's old. I want to say basic, like, was it basic that had all the 10, 20, 30, 40s? And so then we'll say 10 and say set Q. Normally, well, because I already, like, I don't have to use def parameter or anything because the let's creating the trail. And usually you'll say set F, but I'm just going to use set Q because that's another thing you can use. Trail, and the set trail to be 3, let's say. Because I'm going to make an ant crawl across the screen, and ant is 3 letters, let's say. So then 20. And so I want that to be set to 3 to start off with. And then I'm going to say, unless trail is less than 70, because usually the terminal is, let's say, maybe 80 characters wide. So if, well, unless trail is less than 70, let's go to 80, let's say, to give me some room. Let me think. I'll have 80 because 20. I'm going to make a format, let's say, and I have to say finish output. And then I'll sleep so it doesn't go too fast. And then at some point we have to increment that. So that's like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And then go to 20 where I'm at right now. And then maybe 80 to exit. I don't know. I think that might be what I need to do. Let's just see. So go to 80 and then 30 format T. And notice that all these 10, 20s, 30s, just like up here, all these labels weren't necessary. Just the ones right here were count and done. I'm just making it look like it's old, like I want to say basic imperative type programming. And then so we'll say tilde A to format this. And this is going to be weird. I don't even know if it's going to work in Sly, actually, or Slime probably wouldn't work either. Because I don't know if it's going to understand what the slash return is. So tilde A, and then we want to do a tilde V, which just is a weird little format directive. Ant tilde this. And this right here, this tilde V, is going to run until the closing of this right here, let's say. And then we want to, after this, I want to hit slash return. And then I'm going to put trail there. And trail is basically going to grow, and this is going to fill in, going over like this. So now I'll say 40. If I don't put the finish right here, so finish output, which I guess I'll show in a little bit. If I don't put the finish output here, then I'm pretty sure it's just going to buffer the loop, and it's just going to show the last thing. So then we'll say 50, and then I'm going to sleep for 0.02. so it doesn't go too fast. And then 60, ink F. We'll put the trail there because we want to increment the trail. So the reason I'm incrementing this trail is I'm starting off at 3, so it's going to take up 3 spaces, and then the next time it's going to be uh, incrementing that. So it puts another space basically is what's going to happen. And this format coming in with a return is going to try to return. What I'm trying to do is make it return on the same line, and that's why I'm using this weird tilde V right here to put spaces leading the ant. So this trail right here is the spaces. I'm going to lead the ant to make it go across with spaces in front of it, and then try to put a return on the same line so it overwrites itself rather than going down to the next line. And this finished output right here, if you ever mess with like C or Perl and you're trying to output some stuff in a loop and you don't have a way to like stop it from buffering, it's not going to show it. So I'll show what it's going to do in a minute, I guess. So 70, go, and then 20. So now I want to go back up to 20, and then 80 is just where I'm going to end at. And so now if I hit enter, so let's see what's happening here. If you ever uploaded a DOS file format up to a Linux or Unix server, then you'll see these control M. So this control M is the returns right here. And so notice the ant's crawling across the screen. And then these control M's, every control M equals enter. So right here, there's no space, and then there's 1 space, and there's 2 spaces, and there's 3 spaces, and there's 4 spaces. The reason I started off with 3 is because ant itself is 3 characters. And so that's what this tilde V is doing, is it's setting it to be 3, and then the next time it's going to be 4, but since ant is only 3, it's going to be putting spaces in between it because the trail is what's growing. So the trails are basically the spaces, let's say. So what I do is just, which I learned this command earlier. So I'm at the end of this. If I hit Control Alt B, it'll go to the front of the matching parentheses. But what I learned the other day is I can hit Control Alt space, and it highlights the whole form from the opening parentheses that I'm at to the closing parentheses. So now Control W to cut this. And then what I want to do is open up CMD, let's say. And then the other day I was in the WW folder for like messing with Hutch and Toot stuff. So I know that's there. So I'm just going to say CD CWW, let's say. And then I'll start SBCL in here. So if I start SBCL in here, since I cut that earlier, I can hit Shift Insert, or the way I have it set up, I can right click, it'll paste also, but Shift Insert will paste. And so now, if I did it correctly, then the ant should run across the screen. And it goes over to 70 places. And you just can't see this inside Sly because it's not overriding these returns. It's just putting the little control character, Control M in this case. And so if I was to exit out of this, let's say, oh, I gotta put parentheses around it. Jeez. Not being an Emacs is weird. Let me just move it over here. And so let's just open up a file. I still have that cut, I think. So if I say C/www, and then I'll just call it ant crawl dot lisp, let's say, and then paste that. Oops. Because I cut that a second ago. That's one thing I don't like about the way Emacs. I wish when I cut stuff, it didn't put it in the same kill ring as the clipboard, but I know you can access the different rings. I just don't know how. I should look that up probably. And so I'm just going to do that again. But this time I'll say Control Space, Control Alt B, and then Control W to cut that. And then Control X B without a control to switch back and hit enter. And I'm back in that file. And then here I'll say like Control Space, Control B, Tab, just to indent that correctly. And then maybe even come over here and say like make ant crawl cross screen. and then Control X, Control S to save that. And then now if I'm over here in this one, what I can do is say SBCL minus minus script, and then give it that name over there, ant crawl dot lisp. And that's funny because I copied the wrong thing. I didn't even notice. So here I'll hit that Control Alt space, and then I'm just gonna cut that, or yeah, cut it, Control W. I think here I can hit Control K, but I'm not in Pair Edit. If I was in Pair Edit, then I could hit Control K, but since I'm not, it only does the first line. So I'll just do that again, Control space, and I'm just gonna cut it, Control W, Control XB to get back over here. And the reason it did that to me was I cut something earlier, and since I haven't hit enter, I went up instead of down. And that's why I went to the wrong one. So if I just hit enter here, and then now I can go back, notice the ant's there instead of the other thing. And I don't know, that's kind of a weird thing that nails me a lot. Because I was expecting it to be the last thing in my buffer. So Control space, Control B, Control W to cut that again. And see, I cut that. And now, when I came back to this window, I was thinking I was where I was. But since I hit Alt P again, it went to the last command I went, which was the frog one, right? And that's why I messed that up a minute ago. So I'll just hit Control Shift underscore to undo that. So that gets rid of that. Control X B to get back to that other buffer, hit enter, Control Y. And then Control space, Control Alt B, and then just hit Tab to reindent that, Control XS to save that, and then come back over here and then run that ant crawl again. And then now my ant's crawling across the screen. Uh, so let me get back over here to my buffer, get back over to my REPL. I'm gonna hit Control L, which recenters this. So it's gonna be go to the bottom, go to the middle, go to the top. I'll just hit Control L. It's not clearing anything, it's just moving my cursor around. I just want to get it to the top. And then, what do I want to do next, I guess? Um, I guess I could kind of do the same thing I did earlier and get rid of the finish output. So just to show what that would look like, let's say. So if I hit Alt P and then I did the same thing again because I went to the frog. So let me Control Shift underscore that. Now if I just hit enter and then hit Alt P, it's the one I want to be at. And then now if I come over here and just get rid of this guy here, I think. I don't think that it's going to matter that because everything else is the same. It's because I think, if you notice, it's a little bit different because it's. I was trying to make it go diagonally across the screen because of this not being here. But I also have to get rid of the returns, I think, to do what I want to do now. So let me get rid of this return, maybe. And then I have to actually put a new line character right here. So tilde percent's a new line character. Is that going to be what I want to do? Oh, too many arguments because I have the tilde A there. So I got to get rid of the tilde A. Because that was my spaces, let's say. But I still want my spaces there. I just don't want the return there. The tilde A was the return. And then there, now my ant goes diagonally across the screen, I guess. I guess I didn't want it to be that long either. So let's do that one more time. And then change this to be 25 so it's not so obnoxious. And then hit Control L, Control L. I noticed it was the wrong one. So I want to get here and hit Control L. There we go. And then my ant goes across the screen like that. I guess I could too, like Control space, Control B, Control W, and then come over here and Shift Insert. Ooh, I'm not an SPCL like I thought. Oops. Didn't like that. Shift Insert. And then my ant crosses across the screen like that too over here. Which there's no difference really in the Sly. It's just because of the over here there was these return characters that Sly was freaking out about. And I don't know how to make Sly be cool with that, so I'll just keep going, I guess. So what should we do next? Um, so I had the loop earlier that was lispy looking. So maybe I can Alt P a couple times and get back to that right here. So like kind of a lispy looking loop right here. It didn't have to come out of there. I don't want to go over loop too much because I don't know too much about all the different loops. But there's a do times. So I can say like do times n. Let's do it 8. And then we can just print something. So let's say print C. And this doesn't put a new line. And so we'll just say, let's say done it. And then we can have done it. And then I guess I should have. So Control B, Control B, Control B space, enter. And then we have done it, done it, done it, done it, done it. And then there's another one called do list, which like I don't know how to get too sophisticated with these yet, but one day. So I'll say do list. I'll just say L for list. And then we'll say ribbit. And then close the list. And then we can just say print CL, let's say. And it'll just give us ribbit back. And then we have do. So see, it's weird too. Up here, let's see, loop for X. So right here, let's just say there was one earlier I was doing this loop for X. So I hit Control R, and I'll say loop for, and then right here I'll just hit enter. Let's say, did that get me what I want? No. Is it Control R? I thought it was loop for. There we go. For some reason, it scrolled up a minute ago. Oh, it's doing it again. But it came down here. And then hit enter. There we go. So notice the loop 4, we had this one right here. This one that looks lispy. This one doesn't look so lispy anymore. But now this do right here. Man, so do is kind of like this too. So I thought this was kind of weird. So maybe I'll do a confusing one first. So let's go do. And notice this let HP 5 is setting this variable HP to 5. And do similar to this. So right here I got a loop, and then inside the loop I have a do. But you can use do by itself. And we'll say do ribbit, and this is going to be kind of like this right here, this let. So the first thing I'm doing right here is setting a variable. So I'll say do ribbit, and then I'm going to set ribbit to be a list, let's say. And I'll make it ribbit. And then to be more confusing, let's cons ribbit onto ribbit. So notice this is a list, this is a symbol, and this ribbit is the variable ribbit right here, which is this list right here. And then we'll say, so then you're going to put your terminating. I was expecting that to re-indent my code. Did I do something wrong there? Ribbit, that's a cons, and the closing that cons. Okay. So ribbit. So now I think it's kind of like maybe like a while. So we'll say do this while greater length ribbit 5, and then close. And this is determining when the do is going to stop. So the first line's setting ribbit to be this. This second line is telling it when I'm going to break out of this do loop, let's say. And then what I want to do is to print ribbit. So linked ribbit needs a parentheses. This is not closing correctly. What am I doing wrong? So linked ribbit. So greater than linked ribbit 5. Now I can close that. Too few elements in ribbit to satisfy lambda list. At least 2 expected but got 1. I'm not very familiar with this if you can't tell. Sub. So I think, let me think. So I got to close this, and then I have to close my, so I missed a parentheses right here. So what's happening here is I had to close a line that's setting variables because I could put more than one of these in do, let's say, which I guess I can show that in a minute too. So close this. And then now that this is closing the variables, now I'm going to close the clause that says when I'm supposed to get out of here. And I don't think this is a while, this is more like a when. So so do this, and then say when length ribbit greater than 5. And so this is not even a when, it's more like an unless, I think. So unless length ribbit's greater than 5, print this. It's really confusing. Because I almost want this to be a less than sign. So this is saying like do this unless length ribbit greater than 5, print ribbit. I think this is how it works. I know it's confusing me earlier. So there we go. And then maybe to make this a little bit less confusing, because I have so many ribbits here, what we could do is say like, we can make this like f name, and then, so f name's ribbit, and then cons ribbit onto f name, and then when length, I think this has to be f name now too, print f name. There we go. So we're just like over here, I was using ribbit so many times, so it's a little bit confusing. Kind of did that on purpose, I guess, just to confuse me. So we're saying do f name, so basically set f name to ribbit, and then cons ribbit onto f name. Then unless length of f name is greater than 5, print f name. And this length is like, notice it's length f name is this right here. And then it's going to come over here and print this 5 times. So this isn't the length of the ribbit. This is the length of a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because this f name is a list. So to show that, I'll say like length of a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what it's checking. So it's not checking the length of this symbol ribbit. It's checking the length of the list. So as long as the list is less than 5, wait, and basically until it's greater than 5, it's going to print these out. And then of course, we could add to this, let's say. So I think if we add to this, because you can do two variables at the same time. And so I'm setting f name here to be ribbit. So let's set another one. And then right here, I can call this one, let's just say L name. And then here, I'll call it T-bird, just put ribbit backwards. And then I'll cons T-bird onto L name. Keep forgetting I'm not out of there. And then this one, I have to close that. And then let's put print append f name to L name. So we're just appending two lists here. And for some reason, I don't think I did this right again. So where did I mess up at? F go two for elements in here to satisfy lambda lists, at least two, but got one. I'm getting the same error I got earlier. When did I not? And I think it's because what's happening here is I put too many. Like I should notice. Like I kind of noticed it, but I thought it would correct it, and then I didn't pay attention. Notice the indentation's wrong. These two should be lining up. And what I did is I put too many parentheses because this is trying to set my variables, and then this second two parentheses is what's going to close my do, which is supposed to be this guy right here. So the next set of two parentheses is expecting to be what's the clause that's going to know when to get out of the do. So all I have to do is get out of there and then just make sure. So that's closing that. And then that means I got to come down here and get rid of some parentheses. There we go. Uh, so that's just like doing two parallel do loops in one, I guess you could say. Um, and so then I guess to even be more freaky of a do loop, it's actually doing a calculation or something, let's say. And I even like if you can't tell, this is so confusing to me that I'm using a greater than sign rather than a less than sign. So it's like kind of hard. Like I need to go research what like I guess the terminology in Lisp that the do is like the way it's terminating what they're calling it a less or a while or a when or whatever, you know. But I know it's opposite of what I think it is. So that's how I'm getting around right now. And so I kind of wanted to do this one way, but let's say so we'll put a do string, and then these are all like dead beef faced babe, let's say, and those are all hex characters if you didn't catch it at first. So I'm gonna say do, and what I want to try to do now is run across this. And actually, before I do that, like this is weird too to me. You can use nth. So if I say nth two, and then I give it a list one, two, three, four, five, then it's gonna give me three because it's you know index at zero based. So if I actually want to get two out of there, I can just put a zero in front of there. And this is messing with a list. And so if I want to do an array, and I give it like an array, let's say, because a string is an array, so an array, then it's saying like array is not of type list. So that one's called elt, which I think stands for element maybe. But notice down here, it's asking me for a sequence. So it's saying the sequence in the index. And if I put nth here, it's asking me for the basically the index, just showing n, maybe for a number, nth index or nth number list. It's backwards. So here it wants the index and then the list. And if I want to mess with an array, it's element, and then it's asking for the sequence in the index. So here I could say like string, let's say, and then give it 2, and then it's zero base, so it's gonna give me that. So I don't know. I find that confusing that int and elt are the opposite. So keeping that in mind, I'll try to do what I was trying to do, which was doing another do. So do, and then we're gonna set the variable s to be dead beef faced babe again. And then rather than just printing out the hex for those guys, which is just A, B, C, D, E, F, which is, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, then we'll try to get ASCII, the hexadecimal of those ASCIIs. Because like A is going to be 97 in ASCII, but we can convert that A to hex to get, I think, 61, right? So for here, now we just put one parentheses here because I want to set n to be 0. And then I'm going to increment. So I could put incf like I did earlier, or I can put 1 plus n, which is the same thing. It's going to increment n. And this is a little bit shorter, I guess. Although maybe it's more tacky to type a plus sign than incf, I don't know. But another way to do the same thing. And then here I'm going to close the variables that I'm trying to set. So that's what this is doing. And then now I have to put the clause that gets me out of there. So we'll say, while it's greater than or equal to n, the length of s. And okay, so I have to use nth, but here I'm just going to hit control. Okay, so here's a example where I want to learn use another sly REPL. And I can't remember the command to start a new sly REPL, but if I hit Alt X, I think I typed sly REPL and then new. Nope. Is it sly new? Nope. Sly REPL. Oh man, I don't remember how to do a sly new REPL. mREPL. Sly mREPL new maybe? Yeah. Man, that's confusing. So sly mREPL new. And oh, it's asking me for a REPL, so I'll just say like uh test REPL, let's call it. And then what this does is it opens up another REPL, but it's actually connected to the other one, which I don't have any variables. But if I was to set one, like if I was to say like def var Joe me, then it's when I hit enter, then it'll be available in the other one. So this is actually inside the same REPL. But what I want to do is like length because int doesn't work on a string because it's an array. But I want to know if length does because I'm not sure. So like length, and then we can give it an array 1, 2, 3, 4. And yes, it does work. So like this is a list, and this is an array. So I'll hit Control X O, just Control X O, no control on the O, and jump to the other one. So Control X O can jump back and forth between these windows. So now we have, and I'll just hit Control X1 to make this one go be full screen. And I think that's big enough. I didn't notice if I made my text big enough, but hopefully it is. So in that case, then I want to say like length S, and then I have to close that, and then I'll put all the stuff I want to do in here. So n's going to be going up, and unless n is greater than or equal to length s, then I want to do what I'm trying to do. Basically, I guess that's how I want to verb that. So print C, we're just going to print C because I don't want a new line here. And now we're going to get the L like we try to do. So we're going to get the element of S, and then we'll give it the index of N. And down here it's like kind of hinting towards what you do. So I'm going to say S. You saw my cursor disappear. I don't know why. It never does that in Linux or FreeBSD or anything, but on Windows, the Emacs cursor disappears on me a lot for some reason. And then give it n for the index. And so this is going to print the letter, each letter, but I want that to be on the same line. And then we'll say print C again, so it stays on the same line, I guess. Print C. So this would be like D and hex, which isn't quite true. D, if I was to say D's ASCII and hex is, and then this will be on the same line as that up there. And then now, I'm not really sure how to do this with a print, so I'm gonna have to use a format, which means I could use a format for all three of these, but I'm just trying to show, because I could say like format tilde A, tilde A, and then put, blah, blah, blah here, and then type those things out. But I'm just trying to show that there's a print C, I guess. And then, so we'll say format T, and then here we'll say 0x, just because it's not going to print with a 0x in front of it. And then I'll say tilde x, which means print the hex of it. So this 0x is just me printing 0x. Tilde x is actually going to convert the code I'm going to get into hex, because the code I'm going to get is actually just going to be the ASCII version, which will be like 97, 98, 99 type of deal. And then we want to actually put a new line here finally. So tilde percent for the new line. And then I want to get the char code, which is going to be the ASCII code of it. So I'm going to convert the ASCII to hex. And then what we're going to grab is the elt SN. Same thing we did before to get each letter, I guess you could say. So there we go. So D is asking hex 64, E 65, A 61, D 64, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, whatever. So this is just using the do loop, which, I don't know, it's just kind of weird because you have the loop and then you have the do's and then you have the do times and all this, but then you have the loops with the do's in them, and then they're not going to have the little parentheses around them or the ifs. Or you can do it without all that stuff over here and then just have all the stuff be lispy looking. So I don't know. Loop is pretty weird, and the do's and the do times and the list and all kinds of other things. So I guess with that in mind, we could go back to the kind of what I was doing before with the go-to tags, but let's get rid of the go-tos and actually do like a loop. A loop. So we could say like loop for I from 0 to 50, let's say, and just make a counter now. And then uh, sometimes like putting a do, like I did over here, wherever it was, one of these do's, like this, it's like if do. It's kind of weird right here, but I noticed the other day someone put their do right here, which I thought was interesting. So if I just say loop for I from 0 to 50 and put a do there, and then let's just sleep for 0.05. And then here we can say format T tilde A tilde A. And this is for aesthetic. And I forgot a parentheses right here. And there's a tilde S, which I used to think was standard for like sex P or S expression or something. But it just stands for standard, I think. So like standard, like this is like aesthetic output or standard output. But not the standard output that you go to, like a standard. you could say aesthetic looking or standard looking, I guess, and then slash return. Because I want to try to put a counter in place. And notice, since I'm using that slash return right there, that I can't do this in Sly and make it come out right. And I guess right here is where I could show without the finish, because I forgot to show that earlier. Because earlier I put a finish output there. And okay, so notice how it paused for a second. Like I was like, oh man, am I stuck in an infinite loop or something? But it paused for a moment because it was printing all that stuff out, and then it threw it out. And the reason it did that is because I didn't put finish output there. So what I want to do is now, let's say, I don't want to cut that. I want to copy it. So Alt W will copy what was highlighted. And then if I come over here and hit Shift Insert and I run this, so it's basically buffering everything, and then it spits out at the last 50. And in Perl and C, like in Perl, there's a thing like finish output. In C, I don't know. I think remember I was messing with that. I just set my terminal. I was using ZSH or something, and just set it to not buffer, and it won't have this problem. So I'll just hit Shift Enter again just to show that what it's doing is it's running through that loop, and then now it spits that out. And to show that it's actually doing that, maybe come over here. Oh, because I hit up. Sorry. So I'd have to hit Shift Enter again, I guess. Shift Enter. And then if I was to come over here, get rid of this, and then hit Enter, but we could just type a terpre here, and then close the loop. Is that going to be correct? See, the loop's actually there. It's actually running those. But because the finish output isn't there, it's buffering everything first. So if I add finish output, then see how it counts in place. And that's what the finish output's doing, I guess. Is it stopping it from buffering all that? Which I don't know. I think it's weird that it's doing that. But if I come back over here and do this again, it's not printing it out correctly inside Sly, let's say. But if I was to say finish output over here, probably it won't wait, even though it's not going to count in place. Now it spits out each one at a time, one at a time, versus a second ago. It's buffering everything and just going to splat it out all at once. So that's what the finish output is, and that's what it was doing earlier, which I meant to say earlier, but then I didn't. And so there's a little like counter in place, I guess you could say. And I can't go up there and edit that, or else I could count higher, I guess. So let me just come over here. Oh no, just because I think it's cool to count in place. And then I have to put a finish output there. And then close that. And then now if I did that correctly again, I can come over here and Shift Insert that. And then now it'll count to 100. So I guess the next thing I want to do over here is, so earlier I made the ant run across the screen, and the ant was just going like this with spaces in front of it. Because I'm using the return here, it's overriding basically. It's putting that and then overriding it in the same place, and putting the next number, overriding it in the same place. So this returns just all in the same line doing it. But there's also a rubout command. And so maybe with the rubout command, it'll look more like a progress bar rather than spaces chasing some text around. And then I want to say, which once again, this might not work either, but let's just say format T, and then if I say tilde A, let's say, and then I say, I think it's called black square. And then if I cut that and come over here and hit Shift Insert, see how it puts this little, I want to call it block square, or a square, but it's calling it a black square, and then it's white. But now it has like a little square right here, which once again, I can't see that inside here. Ironically, if I copy this, I think. So if I copy that and then paste it, it's not that Emacs can't show that character, just for whatever reason. Like, and actually, even if I have that character there, if I save the file, like save this in a file and then open it back up, then Emacs is just going to show this. So I don't know. Like I'm just messing around on Windows, so I don't really care. I'll just come over to the terminal and show that stuff, I guess. I tried to change like some of these settings because it's Unix, and so I figured that might be why. But if I change it to UTF-8 DOS, then it still does the same thing. So I know there's a way to make it all work, but usually, like on my Linux stuff, then I'm all worried about this. On Windows, I don't really care. I don't really have a Linux machine to mess with. I have a little hard drive sitting over here that I took out of my laptop that crashed, and so I boot that into a virtual machine and can mess with Linux. So I don't know. Eventually, I'll go over there and mess with Stump WM and stuff. Just maybe boot that from the hard drive. But like i3 is hard to use that way, but Stump WM should be able to use through the. I don't know. I tried it the other day, and then I went outside and then I came back. I don't know if the screensaver or whatever it crashed, and I had to reboot the system to get it back up because I'm using like exporting to do all that stuff. So maybe I'll just boot up that thing from USB and then show you some of the stuff from a Linux side, I guess. I don't want to put all that like X Windows system on my FreeBSD machine, or I'll just use that. So now I'm going to try to build like a progress bar, let's say. So this time we'll make a function. So progress bar, we'll make it a square one, let's say. And then we'll try to use do times instead of using go tos. So do times I40. And basically this is just going to set I to 0 and go till 40. It does that automatically. So do times I40 is just saying set I to be 0 and do this 40 times basically. And then we'll format T and we'll give it the aesthetic. And then I think I have to make this into a string and then give it an initial element. So if we create a string and it's going to be I, and we'll give it an initial element. And this is like, you can do this with an array, the initial element. It just fills an array with a certain character or whatever. And then we'll give it the code char of that uh, black square, let's say. Which I guess I need to make sure I have that right too. If I'm going to do it this way. Um, so earlier I did that format, it does this. We could also say like char code, I think, which char code black square. And then right here, this is what I'm going to use. Uh, I guess this will be like the decimal, but here's the hex version of that. So that's the one I'm going to use. And so this way, if we say format T uh, tilde C and then code char X25A0, and then this will print that out. I don't want to copy that yet, but if I came over here, it'll print the square. And the reason I want to cut that is because I still have this in my buffer. I don't want to get rid of it. And so here I'll say code char. It was pound X 25A0. So make string I initial element code char. And then I don't really like that it's crossing over. So maybe I'll just come over here. I think it's cool with me doing this. Close my format. And then once again, we want to do that finish output. Maybe we can show it without that and see what it does too. And then make it sleep again so it doesn't happen instantaneously. And then, do I have to put another do times in here, another loop? So we'll say do times, and then give it j, and it'll be 1 plus I. Or should it just be I? Starting out, I think I can just say I here maybe. And then right char. And then we'll put a backspace. I was calling it rub out. There's a rub out too, but I'm not sure what the difference will be. So if I do that, does that work? I gotta call it progress bar square. Find function. What did I name this thing? Oh, I called it progress bar. I'm just gonna fix that instead of typing it wrong. And so if I call that again, and then now it ran and did that. So I'm gonna have to say, just to see what it's doing inside Sly, because it's not doing it correctly. But here we saw when we try to print this guy out that my square looks like this inside Sly. So what it's doing here is it's printing that, and then it's doing the backspace. So this control H character, control character is the backspace. And so then right here we can see that it does the square bar, and then it does a backspace, square, 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 backspace, 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 square, 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 backspace, backspace, backspace. So just like earlier what I was doing on the same line, all this is happening on the same line once again. So it's just, what it's doing is it's printing the square, and then it's putting a backspace and get rid of it, printing it, putting the backspace, get rid of it, printing it, put the backspace and get rid of it. So it looks like it's doing what I want it to be doing. So I'm going to hit Control Space, Control Alt B, Control W, Alt Tab, and then Shift Insert, and then call that. And then you can see it's going over there and makes that. It's kind of slow. So if we wanted to speed that up, we just come over here and change this. I want to say without the sleep, it'll probably just print this all at once. We can try that right now, I guess. So if I go over here and just go to the end and copy this thing one more time, or actually cut it out, and then hit Shift Insert. Can I hit up arrow? No. Oh my god. There's a library that you can load to make this SBCL not so stupid, but I haven't tried it yet. Oh, what did I take out of there? Oops, I did the same thing. I thought I took the sleep out of there. I guess it ran that slow. So I guess I didn't have to have a sleep in there. You can still tell. Uh, but that's because I wrote this one. See, it's the wrong one. The I did the same thing that I did every time because I'm cutting that out and then hitting Alt Enter. So notice what I ran was the wrong one, and so I'm not going to retype it. I'm just going to call it progress bar square. See how it instantaneously did that one? Can I hit up arrow now? Yeah, so it's just popping it out right away. Uh, so I could change this to 2 maybe. And is that one correct? I hope I didn't copy the wrong one again, which seems to be what I'm doing a lot. And then this one's progress bar. So I'm gonna try to. I never tried that library though. I saw two different ones, so that one's a little bit faster. Uh, I don't know how fast you can make it go, but like if we put another like zero in there, I can't put it there. Can I hit enter? There we go. So if I'm just up there and hit enter, it'll pull it down here. I don't know if I can keep up with that, but we'll see. So Control Alt and then space, Control W, and then that one's progress bar square. Yeah, so that one's going fast enough that the computer can't keep up in the terminal, I guess. And I guess the only other thing to do is, let's say you don't want to use these goofy ASCII characters because they don't even print right in your terminal or in Sly or whatever. Although the backspace isn't going to work either. Uh, this time I'm actually going to hit enter so I don't mess up what I was trying to do if I cut it. I guess I should have copied it, but I want to say now we can just change this whole thing, the initial element, from this guy. So let's get rid of this. And then just use an equal sign. I'm actually going to copy it this time so I remember not to do that again. Hit Shift Insert. Oh, I don't want to be called progress bar square either. Um, oh well. I would call that progress bar, I guess. You know, let me just do this real quick. I know it's goofy, but we'll just say that's progress bar. And then Control Space Alt V. Copy it instead of. I still have the wrong thing copied. Oh, no, I didn't. I was looking at this part right here. So now it's just called progress bar. So now if I call progress bar, and it's equal signs. I can't do that. And then maybe like you want your progress bar. I don't know. Like sometimes with an equal sign, you might want a character like this. And then right here, we would want to say, because I added this arrow, so it looks like an arrow, then we'd want to say like 1 plus I. Oops. Yeah, do I need that there? 1 plus I. And then close that. Is that correct? And so then now if I go like this, I'm gonna cut it just to mess myself up in a minute. And then we'll say progress bar. And then it goes over there. And the reason we had to put this extra one here was we need one more backspace because we're starting off with a character. And so the I and the J needs to be one more than the I. So it gets rid of the this and this. Else, you probably couldn't tell the difference actually if I left it as I. But it would actually be only getting rid of this and not the equal sign. So it have one more equal sign than it's supposed to, which I guess we can test. And I did it again. uh, so get rid of this guy here and just put the I here. So here it's going to work, and the I is not going to be able to tell probably. But there's actually going to be an extra equal sign than there's supposed to be. I'm thinking. Oh, so yeah. So notice that this is longer. So first off, there was an extra equal sign than there was supposed to be. That's why this one's shorter. And on top of that, it didn't get rid of the first little greater than sign sitting there. So to go back to the correct one is this one. And then maybe actually make this as fast as it can go. Oops, I hit the wrong character. Control B, copy it, paste, shift insert, and then progress bar. There we go. Ribbit.